Okay, so on this one we're gonna work on some tubes, like long tubes in different shapes or snakes, or however you want to think of them. So we're gonna start off pretty simple, and I'm just gonna make a line. So that's gonna be kind of like the basis or the spine or whatever you wanna call it. What we're gonna do, and then I'm just gonna make circles, not ovals, because we want it to have volume. I'm just gonna overlap. Make sure you overlap your circles as you're doing this. And I'm just making sure it's about even on both sides of the line. And so this is pretty simple. So I did that, of course, with my H pencil. Now I'm just gonna take my 2B, gonna outline it. And so we have that really simple. And then I'm just going to follow my circles, just like we've done on the other designs, the other forms. And pretty simple. So, and there we have our little snake. Okay, so let's kind of do one that's a little bit more complex. So let's do like that. So this time I want it to look like the snake is kind of in maybe a 1-point perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out making circles. And then as I kind of start to go further back, I'm going to make sure the circles get a little bit smaller, and really taper off at the end. And that's going to give the illusion, you know, as we've done the boxes in 2-point, you know, they're big up front, and then as they go back, they get smaller. So we're just going to give the illusion of that by doing the same thing, by making those smaller as they go back. So now I'm just going to do the same exact thing that I did on the other one. And you'll notice kind of as they come to kind of more of a curve, these kind of lessen in here and they kind of start to squeeze a little bit. And that's good. We want them to start doing that. They're really going to do it when the wrinkles or the curves get a lot closer. And I'll show you as we do a few more of those. So there I have my little snake. So, and I'm just going to kind of put this down here to just kind of show where it's kind of touching base. And down here, oh, maybe I'm going to do it out like this a little bit to kind of show that this end pops up from the ground and it's leaving a cast shadow. So it's kind of showing that that one's sticking up. We'll talk about that more a little later as we get into value and how to shade these. Okay, so now let's do one that's, I don't know, let's do one that's a little more complicated. So let's do, I don't know, let's do one like this. So as you can see, I'm just starting out with the curvy line. And this time what's different is I've kind of made these curves get a little tighter. And I'll show you, because the way we have to put these other lines are going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to start off. I also want this to look like it's in perspective as well. So as I go further back, my circles are going to get a little smaller. So I've made my circles. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to outline my shape. And we don't have to really concentrate on this necessarily today, but this is just something you can practice on your own time. I've practiced for years being able to do solid lines, flowing lines, whether they're curved or whether they're straight. And I think it's good for you to practice that and get to the point where you can make these nice flowing lines without having to do these little sketches. At first you'll have to do the sketches, then it's going to be really good if you can get to the point where you can do these solid flowing lines. Because that's just going to make all your drawings a lot smoother and your sketches. Okay, so we're just going to go back. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go through these, and as we get to these curves, you're going to kind of see what happens more and how these shapes got tighter. It's going to kind of do it here at this one too. Okay, so now instead of just putting a line down the middle like we did over here, we're going to do something a little different. So, see this shape? We're going to start on the insides of these curves. This is where we're going to start our line, but I'm just going to follow this outer shape of the curve. So I'm going to start here, and then I like to go not quite to this top line, but maybe like 1/4 of an inch down. So I'm going to start here, and this curve right here should follow the shape of this curve. So see how I'm going to do that? Then I'm going to come up here. So it's going to follow that. And then I might end it right there, and see I'm going to take, now I'm going to go to the next curve, the inside of it, and I'm going to match that. And I'm going to go about right to about like that. Let's see, actually I might make this come out a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to draw that line. Make sure you keep your pencil sharp. Mine's not super sharp right now. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and I'm just going to follow the shape of this one, and then come back and do that, and then in here do this, and then go back here, and I can do this one. Okay, so now those kind of indicate, so now when we do our shading, just so you can see, I'm not going to do the shading here, but this will just kind of indicate kind of where my shadows will be. Now, if I wanted this to not be round, I wanted it to kind of look like a snake-like shape, I could just add that onto it. So, okay, let's do kind of a, let's do another one that's a little more, let's do one that's a little more complex than that one. So let's make some really sharp curves. So Let's do, so once again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to overlap my circles. And I'm going to once again make it in perspective, so they're going to get smaller. So this front part is all going to be about the same size of circles, but as I get back here, that's when they're going to get smaller. I'm going to actually extend this out a little bit so they don't run into each other quite as much. So I'm going to make this a little bit, let's make it a little bit more like that. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to do my outline. And this is so squished together that I'm not even going to draw one up there. I'm just going to start from here and go like that. So I don't like that little mess up I had. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead. My pencil is not very sharp. Let me sharpen it. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and make my rings. Okay, so now we have this. What I'm gonna do is we have to deal with the corners again. So these corners right here. So what I'm gonna do is I need to match this shape starting from right here, just like we did. And once again, I'm gonna kind of go out to about 1/4 out. So I'm gonna kind of follow that shape. So this shape right here is following this shape. So I'm going to follow that. I'm going to probably go over about that far. And then I'm going to kind of end it right there. And then this one right here, we got to follow this shape out here. So I'm going to pull it out to about the same as here. And then there. Same with here. This follows this shape. Do it here, and then I'm going to do one here. So let's draw those in so that. So a good way to think of it is we start with this curve, and it's going to kind of end at the bottom of the next curve. So same with here. I'm going to start here. And see how it ended with this curve. So the curve you start at, it's going to kind of end right at the back of the next curve. So now we have this much so far, but I want to kind of show that, you know, there's some other, you don't have to make them go all the way. I'm just kind of now wanting to show a few more lines to give it a little more depth. So now I have my little snake like that. So I'm just going to put these here so we can kind of see where it indicates. Then there'll probably be a shadow here because it would be the cast shadow from this one. And once again, we'll talk about that more when we start talking about the shadows. So we have this snake. Let's do another one. Let's do one that's a little more complicated than this one so we can just kind of see how different stuff works. So I'm actually gonna do this. Let's make this a little bigger. So I'm gonna make it so it's got a bunch of curves in it. We can kind of see how things happen when they cross over and they intersect. And once again, I'm going to do this one to where it's closer, bigger up close, and then goes back smaller. Anytime you can use perspective, it's really going to give the illusion of depth in your drawing. So keep that in mind. And since this is closest to me and this is closest to me, I'm going to make the circles that form down here and form here bigger. And I'm kind of done these on smaller sheets of paper because of my camera. Can only kind of get, but these work a lot bigger and you can see more happen to learn if you make these tubes / snakes bigger. The bigger the better, because you can see where the lines are happening a lot better. I'm going to make this line out a little further. Okay, so I'm going to outline it, and I'm going to make this line be in the front. So I'm going to do that first before I get too far. So I'm going to know this one's going to be in the front. And then I'm going to do a little curve like that. And this one's going to be the biggest part. Okay, so right now this thing looks really flat. That did not match up. All right, that matches up better. Okay, so right now it looks really flat, and it all kind of looks like it's on the same plane, just kind of like the other ones did. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting in my circles. Okay, I'm just check to make sure my camera still has film. Okay, so now we have this. We've kind of given it a little bit more 3-dimension. So I'm going to go up here once again to my first curve, which is right here, and I'm going to match this shape again right here. So I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna go over, you know, till about a fourth over. And I'm gonna have it end right here at this next curve. And then I got this curve that starts right there. So I'm gonna come back again. I'm gonna make that. Now I have this curve. So I'm gonna start here. It's gotta match the shape of this. I'm gonna do the same thing. So let's draw these lines in for the curves. Okay, so now I'm gonna sharpen my pencil. And right here, just this little tiny bit, just gonna show that that kinda, it's like that. I don't need to do a lot more. Okay, so now I'm gonna kind of add maybe a couple of extra lines in here, just so I can kind of get an idea of where my other lines are. And once again, now I have a 3D little snake. So now you kind of get the idea of how to make tubes. Tubes are a little different because the way these lines have to go in is going to kind of determine, make it look three-dimensional and different stuff like that. So I think we're done with that. So now you kind of have some ideas of how to do this, and you can come up with your own different shapes, you know, stuff in front of stuff, stuff going back. And there's different variations that I'm going to have you practice for those.